Hey everybody, it's Jillian again, and I am wearing my, remember this? Remember this robe? I wore this so much the first year I started rolling this out because it was winter time and I was freezing and I was going through a healing process. So my temperature was definitely not up to standards the way it is today. So I found this in my closet or in a bag that I'm still living out of right now because we need a lot more dresser drawers, but I'm sure we'll get that at some point. So, anyways, just a few things. Yeah, I have been taking no prisoners, okay? So you guys have noticed that lately even the most ardent supporters, some of you are the most ardent supporters, if I see any sign of like any kind of distrust or questioning what I'm saying, I tend to be very like, I don't say triggered, but more like, hey, there's no reason to question my story here. And we're gonna discuss it because if I'm feeling a certain way, I want to hash it out. And if I really, feel like, you're that you're on the up and up and it's not going to be a back and forth, and you and I will go back and forth and we'll hash it out and it'll be awesome. Okay. So some of you may have seen some interaction between myself and somebody else because it's like, I don't want any doubt in anybody that's doing this protocol in any way, shape, or form. And if there's any doubt in any way, shape, or form, it could majorly undermine your healing process if there's something that you don't agree with. And I know it's going to happen, but when it comes to the protocol, we all got to agree. When it comes to like politics and whatever else out there, I don't care, right? But when it comes to the protocol, we have got to agree. If we don't agree, then it's not going to work as far as you being, someone that's on my protocol, because those seeds of doubt, even in your head, can really mess with somebody. And I just want everybody to understand whether or not that you think it's going to happen, because right now I'm going through this experimentation process with my menstruation. Okay. I'm trying to hit amenorrhea and I'm noticing all of the physical symptoms, prior to menstruation, because I'm still menstruating. So those of you who are just tuning in and thought that so I didn't have my period since October 20th, right? And then I just got it December 8th. So it's been 49 days in between my period. So I'm going to read something real quick. Okay. So this is why I get so like, triggered, and I will say triggered around anyone that is putting any seeds of doubt, questioning, or trying to undermine what I'm doing, even inadvertently, because there's some diehard cannabis people out there too that will say, oh, I'd rather a person smoke cannabis and eat donuts. Those two are the same things. Those aren't very different. No different than chemo and cannabis. They're the same thing, just in different forms. So I don't want anybody to be taking on a political stance when it comes to the protocol. So that's why I have been blocking even the most ardent supporters that have been around me, because a lot of people who've been around me for a while have also come from the activist world, and they're bleeding over, loving my information, but still wanting to hold fast to their, typical way of driving their day, which is activism, pro pot. And I'm not doing that anymore. So you've got to either grow with me or you stay back in your activist world. Okay. So anyway, so let's look at what is, what is menstruation? Menstruation, also known as period or monthly, is a regular discharge of blood and mucosal tissue from the inner line of the uterus through the vagina. Mucus. Now, let's understand what mucus is. Mucus happens in women during, sexual activity as well as men, right? And it's normal in that whole context. But then we're finding out that reproduction comes from a body that has mutations, and the body sees itself that's not going to be around for a while. It's not going to be around forever, right? So it knows that it's on a death trajectory, so it drops seeds. And when it drops seeds, it's looking to get fertilized so the lady can have a baby to carry the species forward. Now, The first period usually begins between 12 and 15 years of age. I got it at 13. A point in time known as menarche. However, periods may occasionally start as young as 8 years old and still be considered normal. Yikes. The average age of the period is generally later in the developing world and earlier in the developed world. So this ought to tell you something, okay? The average age of the first period is generally later in the developing world. That's like third world countries. And then earlier in the developed world. So this is where I've gotten on the whole thing about amenorrhea, that it should be something that we're shooting for, is because there have been people on my Facebook who did not hit menstruation until they were 19, and they were perfectly healthy. Young farm girl, living the fresh country life, herding cows and eating country food and living on a farm, not taking in all these pathogens. She didn't hit, menstruation until she was 19 because she went to the doctor thinking that she was abnormal because everybody around her was menstruating. So people in the developing world are so much healthier than the people in the first world. Okay, so the average age of the first period is generally later in the developing world because they're healthier, and earlier in the developed world because we're not healthier. Okay? The typical length of time between the first day of one period and the first day of the next is 21 to 45 days in the young woman and 21 to 31 days in the adult. So I'm at 49 days in between. That's unheard of in my world. Okay, this period reminds me of my first period when I was 13. So I am cycling, like the time right now, like the time travel right now, I'm cycling back to when I was like 13 or 14 or 15 when I first got my period. I got my period at 13. I remember it was 7th grade, and it was actually in the locker room during physical education, and they had to give me a pad. So anyways, interesting, Lori. So anyways, and then sexual stimulation mucus is different than it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's different or the same. It's one of these things that any type of secretion, regardless of what it is when it comes to sex, is normal in the context of a death trajectory, but mucus in of itself or sexual secretions in of itself is a sign of antigen in your body, okay? Because it is, first of all, yes, it needs to protect the sperm and it needs to lubricate to make sure that the act does go on, without a hiccup. But when a female has her, that lightning bolts and all that stuff, that takes away part of her soul, okay? No different than when a man releases all of his stuff. He loses his life force. And then when you have a baby, guess what that baby is doing? That baby is taking away your life force. And if you are already immunocompromised, right? If you're already immunocompromised, then it's going to even deplete you even more. Because I've seen people right now. That's fine, Maggie, but I'm not trying to go there right now. Okay, I'm trying to get a point across here. Okay, like seriously, I'm not trying to get all scientific in this way. I'm trying to give you a bigger picture. All right, I get it, but that's not the point where I'm going. And right now it's a little distracting reading this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to delete these comments because that's not where I'm going. Because I don't know what you're trying to prove right now, but it's not where I'm going. That's fine, but I'm trying to give you a bigger picture. If you just listen and stop typing, okay? If people just listen for a minute and just stop typing and just listen to where I'm coming from instead of going into your own whatever, that would be awesome. You know, seriously. And I'm not trying to be a butt, but I just want people to listen instead of putting out their own ideas, which I'm sure are relevant in a different context. But I'm not asking you what the act is of what the things are happening. I'm not asking you for the physical reasons why. I'm just telling you, hold on. And I really would like some people just to chill out on their scientific research. I've done a lot of scientific research too. You can call it side info, but it's still distracting and it's not the point. Okay, it's not the point. I'm just trying to, because I'm trying to get a point across and it just doesn't make sense to have all that information there. There's a million reasons why things happen, and we know it happens. We know why it happens. We can all Google and say, okay, why does sex happen? Why does this happen? We know why it happens or what's going on. But what I'm trying to get a point across is about menstruation. There are some people that think that that sex is the greatest thing, that it's the most healthiest thing, that having children is the most healthiest thing. And it may be in a society that is deeming having children the honor among honors, right? Women with children are revered. Children are revered in our society as well as thrown away. I mean, it's a double-edged sword in our society. Okay? And so we have to figure this out, because what's going on is that we have mothers who don't like my info because they think that I'm talking blasphemy against them. They think that because I don't have kids, that I could not possibly understand what they go through. I cannot possibly understand the joy of giving birth, the joy of having children. Oh, I do. I used to be a nanny. Oh, no, they're not my own. If I had my own kids, believe me, they would be like the best children in the world, of course. Just like all of you who are doing the Jilly Juice protocol and want to have an amazing family, your kids are going to be the best and are already the best kids in the world because you're giving them an excellent foundation. But where I'm coming from is saying, hey, let's take a look at this real quick, because I have been suffering from PMDD, which is an extreme form of PMS, which is an extreme form of the body getting ready to get pregnant because it's on a death trajectory. If I hadn't had this PMDD, I wouldn't be focusing so much on reproduction, because I would have been focusing on something else that I had in my life if I still was to go down this direction. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is I am now in a place where I'm feeling 100%, 200% better than what I felt like before. It has now been 49 days in between my last period, no different than it was back when I was 13 or 14. Okay? And that means something. That says something. And the fact that I felt cramps and I felt sick the day of, not at all the weeks following up to my menstruation, which tells me that things were starting to get fixed. Things were getting fixed. And the only time I felt sick was when I was on my period. And then it's not normal getting sick. It's not in a body that's supposed to be healthy, which means that I still have more mutations to fix, right? Because look, I took care of my PMDD. I don't have those follow-up major crazy symptoms following up to my period anymore. I don't have the crazy bloat. Okay, I don't have the inflammation in my skin and my hairs and all this stuff. I don't have that anymore. I don't have the brain fog anymore. I have killed off the fatigue. And then, so I'm feeling amazing, right? And then and I'm thinking like, okay, and this was, and I did feel fatigue, I think a week or so prior to my period before October 20th. But this month, which was giving me the idea that I was hitting amenorrhea, was because I did not feel anything. If anything, my energy levels were completely up. Okay, so I'm trying to give you a more global perspective, not the nitty gritty stuff that really can go over people's heads and have their eyes glaze over. This is about the bigger picture, Maggie May. Okay, the bigger picture. Interesting, Kirsty, interesting. So the bigger picture here is the fact that I have no symptoms prior, and then Saturday, when I'm helping my friend move, all of a sudden I see this and I'm feeling this weird ovulating feeling. And then Kirsty says, I too have not had my period since being on the protocol, and it's been 2 months. I feel like I'm ovulating. Oh, interesting. You're going through your reproductive system is going through some kind of healing process, because that's exactly what I felt was like this ovulation, like a cramping. Like, you know that something's going to happen down there. And that's what I felt like on Saturday. And then Sunday, I was taken out of the picture. I had to go, sit on the couch. I couldn't even function really on Sunday at all. I mean, I could have, but it wasn't to the best of my ability. It wasn't like to the capability that I was dealing with, that I was doing a week or so ago. It was a complete change, and my energy level just the last couple of days, it's finally I'm back to normal, right? But no, I mean, so Saturday I was feeling the ovulation, then Sunday, period, done. And then Monday, no, hardly any energy. Tuesday, a little bit, sort of. So I'm seeing myself come back prior to me getting my period December 8th. So that really clued me in that hormones, when you have an abundance of hormones to get you prepared to have a baby, it is detriment. It is a sickness. It is not a good thing. But, sickness in our society is so accepted that it's really nothing, because we have people who are pregnant right now who are dealing with heart murmurs. That pregnancy, like, what is it? Pregnancy diabetes happens. Heart issues during pregnancy happens. All these things are happening during the pregnancy. Now, some people don't experience that because their body is already relatively healthy, right? Relatively, right, in our society, prior to them getting pregnant. So their pregnancy is not very hard. Or they were younger and they weren't experiencing so much of the breakdown. The body was able to still feed itself and keep, the systems going, and have the baby still be fed and going too. Now people are depleting as they're getting, like, on their second or third or fifth child. Their body is depleting, and then the baby is also depleting the mother's body. So the mother's having a very difficult pregnancy. So that tells me that, having a child is not the healthy thing. Menses is not a healthy thing. And then seeing all this blood come out, and I've been seeing a lot of the uterus being shed. I mean, a lot of the blood. I mean, it's definitely heavier like it was when I was a kid. But when I was 13, it was these jelly, like I could feel it come out of me. I don't have that jelly like, but I see somebody go to the restroom, like all this stuff at the bottom of the toilet. I'm like, oh my God, yuck. And I'm looking closer. I'm going like, what is that? And you can't tell because it's all red, but it's all mucus stuff. It's all the lining. Okay. And so I'm hoping that I get to a point to where I don't trigger menses at all. Okay. And so, that is my goal, because it is not normal to feel sick. The only time anyone should ever feel sick is if they get exposed to a pathogen that the body doesn't recognize. Okay? And that's when inflammation happens. That's when things start going on where you're feeling a red flag. So when you're feeling menstruation, that's a red flag that you got a lot of issues going on. And the body is getting prepared to carry the species forward. So it's going to want to, have a child, and it's going to signal the person to get into this sexy way, whatever, to go find a mate, whoever they are. Now, whether you can have a kid is completely irrelevant. The act of trying to find someone or something to go engage in whatever that is the body's instinct, regardless of whether or not your intention is to have a child. See, that's the trippy thing about people don't understand, because we have been recreationalizing, you know, the body's instinct to carry the human species forward, and found ways to where you can, do that stuff without reaping the consequences. But there are consequences to those, because, more STDs, more things get passed between people, bad relationships, misunderstandings, the the love and sex seem to get lost, and then people start acting insane around that, and then they start acting obsessive around that. And then it is also, there are addictions that are around that as well. There are a lot of addictions around, sex. So it's one of those where we have to recognize what menstruation is, what, activity in males, what they do. And if it's all they're thinking about, whatever it is, it's a sign of a problem. Like, seriously. Now, as far as what we're going to look at in the future, I'm hoping in the future that we don't ever have to have sex as a major component in any relationship, that people can actually hang out together, be spiritually connected without having to go into that act. Yeah, the act is great once in a while. No different than eating a cupcake once in a while. When you start partaking into something that is not good for you, that does destroy you, even in small bits, and you do it even more and more and more, that is a sign of an issue. I mean, when I was eating cupcakes this weekend, and I'm eating cake batter and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, this is an issue here. This is a sign of an issue, and my period is directly responsible. Okay? And we were having discussions the other day, or yesterday, about estrogen and progesterone dominance and all this. And I remember when I was dealing with PMDD and I went to a pharmacist and they gave me some progesterone cream. They're like, hey, you're estrogen dominant. That's why you're all crazy. That's why you have all these crazy symptoms. And so here's some progesterone cream. They're like, yeah, just rub it here, rub it there, rub it on different parts of your body. And I would do that. And my mom warned me, you better be careful taking these different hormones. You don't know what's going to happen. And, she was right. Not that I even knew or made any kind of connection to anything that was going on to that cream. But it's like, the reason why these progesterone and estrogen probably do get developed is because the fact that, we're triggering it because of our lifestyle. We're on a death trajectory. So these hormones get created. And then when we have people who are so mutated, it's because they have so much overabundance of one hormone. And then it's impacting the body. I mean, the body's creating natural killer cells to keep it at bay so it doesn't kill you. And then it does kill you over time, because too many antibodies in your body does, do a person in. It ages them. That's why when you have so much sex, like a woman or a man, they are releasing their life force. It ages them. Okay. And then when women are so sexual and all that stuff, there's a lot going on with that woman, a lot of mutations. Relatively healthy women are not super sexual. And then our society says that that's something wrong with you, that you're not super sexual. There's something wrong with you, when it really is the other way around. But that's from a society that's mutated and on a death trajectory. So it would make sense why it's the going popular thing that someone that is not sexual is like a pariah, and someone that is like, the all end all be all. So, so now I'm seeing things on a different perspective. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not trying to knock you, Maggie. And Maggie, you have some great information. But where I'm going is not in the specific details of what would cause and why secretions happen. We know why it happens. It's not anything, any mystery. We can all Google it. But now we're looking at the bigger picture. Okay. And I'm seeing exactly from when 2 weeks prior to my period, I feel amazing. I don't feel like I'm gonna get my period at all. I thought I was gonna hit amenorrhea. I was like, bam. And then bam, my period came and it took me down. And that's a trip. but that's a good thing because it feels like it was a healing symptom. Because when you are, pain is healing. You realize that, right? Pain is healing. So your body going through menstruation, it's trying to heal, but it also is going through what it needs to go through to prepare itself to carry the species line forward so you can raise that kid so it could be around and help the human race keep going, right? But no, this weekend I had my period and I saw it as a healing symptom. It wasn't something normal, because what normal was to me, what normal was, what I see is where we all need to be is when we are super motivated, super energetic, without using drugs or alcohol, super clear, super on point, super productive, to where there is nothing in this world that could take us down as far as sickness. But given that I'm a woman and I still have mutations, and I don't know all the mutations. I know that I have a white hair on my head. That's a mutation. That's fine, Michelle. You can write to me and I will, and I'll, I don't usually respond too much. I will take, if it's a testimony, I'll share it. If it's something that, because I don't do personal consultations, just so you know. Write that information, get my book. Okay, we'll send us the receipt. We'll give you the login and password to go into the discussion forum and then have an anonymous name and then share everything. Because here's the thing, I want you guys to share this information with everybody in my group. It gets lost in me, okay? I want others to know that others are going through the same thing. So that's how I want, but I'll get back to that in a minute. I still have mutations in my body. That's why I triggered that menstruation. My husband and I had sex like on Friday. And I'm telling him, on Saturday when I'm starting to bleed, I'm like, Jason, we had sex. You shook the damn tree. God dang you. But it's not his fault. Okay, it's not his fault. Could I still have sex with my husband and not have my period? That's the major key thing. Does sex trigger that? And you know what? If an accident or a diagnosis of a major disease triggers fertility to where a woman gets pregnant when she's been infertile or had, fertility issues prior, but as soon as one or two parties get diagnosed or in an accident, all of a sudden the baby happens, could then sex, which is blunt force trauma to the vagina, could that trigger menstruation? Well, hey, could sex be considered a trauma to the body? Possibly. Okay, possibly. But you limit to once a week enough because your partner needs it, right? So you don't want to completely stop it with your partner, because that would be way too much for someone that's still in the matrix, right? So you limit it to where your body can recover from it. No different than when you go outside and you breathe in all the crappy air, right? And your body goes into its responses to protect the body so you don't suffer that mutation on a continuous basis. I think that's no different than having sex with somebody that you're married to that still isn't, doing the protocol. But you know that if you have too much sex, that it's going to be detrimental to you. So you find that balance in the relationship and with your body. And then you take my drink relative to your toxin exposure. And I hate to say that, my husband is not toxic. No, he just has his own, physical issues. But it's, but sex can be very toxic. But it's so pleasurable. The reason why is because how else is humanity going to be able to carry the species forward when it's on a death trajectory? So of course there's going to be totally pleasurable experience. Why people go into this Kundalini tantric crap. Okay. So, that right there makes sense. So those of you that, Michelle Lee and anybody else, the best way to share what you're going through is to write it into my discussion form under anonymous. And if you have a testimony, okay. So if you have a testimony, I don't do too much private message. Definitely send me an email. My email address is on the website, okay? and then my moderator, he'll get it. She'll forward it to me. But the best way to share all this information is to do it in the discussion forum, because we have so many women that have fertility issues. We have so many women that have so many, menstrual issues, and we need to hear from other women. We need to hear what they're going through, because there's people that are now getting pregnant. Yesterday, this lady was messaging me, and I was like, okay, then I finally said, okay, now you need to take this, get my book and take it to the discussion forum, because this is good information. But she was like, I guess she was struggling with getting pregnant, and then I guess some of the pregnancy tests didn't work for her or something, and then finally she is now pregnant, and she's been doing this protocol for over a year now. Okay, and there's probably other details in there that I don't remember. That's why I'm saying you got to write this down, because I'm not gonna remember everything, right? But now she's doing Jilly Juice. She is pregnant, and I can't wait to see how this is going to go. And there's others of you who've, been trying to get pregnant in the system, gone to fertility clinics, found out that, the husband has too many heavy metals in the sperm, and it was stopping the sperm from swimming. And so, but when they, when they did do all the IVF stuff and doing Jilly Juice, the body was able to create like 12 eggs instead of 4 eggs. But they still couldn't get pregnant. They did try to take one of the embryos and put it in there, but the body, it couldn't take it for whatever reason. And it could be a myriad of reasons, okay? But the fact that she was able to create like 12 embryos or 12 eggs or something, I forget what it was a huge thing. All right? So it's imperative that you women that are on this, that are going through all of these different changes, that you share this information in the discussion forum, because you share it on Facebook, it gets lost in the newsfeed. You share it to my private messenger, it gets lost in private messenger. You share it in the discussion forum, that data is there forever, and someone that does a search in that forum with keywords will be able to find that info and then offer their own 2 cents on what they've been experiencing. That's how I'm trying to train you guys to stop private messaging me and to share everything in the discussion forum. But get the book first. JillyJuice.com. Get the book first. Start helping your fellow woman. Okay? So, we definitely need to start doing this, because we don't have peer reviews that are in our corner out there in academia. That's all based upon the Rockefeller whatever foundation, type of model. The American Medical Association doesn't give a crap about what women go through. They talk about it in a very, peripheral way, but not in the way that we're looking at it. The way I'm, discussing it is completely different than what Wikipedia. Well, Wikipedia is a combination of so many different, people and their resources, right? Put it all together. And it right there, that's the key thing. This is what you guys have to see. This is huge. This ought to tell you something, okay? The average age of the first period is generally later in the developing world and earlier in the developed world. Okay? So the fact that we have all these different vaccines and pathogens and pollutions and industry and all this stuff has triggered menstruation earlier in girls. That means that these girls are on a death trajectory at an earlier age. The body is seeing that the body is going like, holy crap, something is going on. We got to drop seeds quickly, because this person is not going to be living very long. And if we get her fertile, and that's why you're seeing all this crazy stuff that goes on out there, all these news stories about teachers and different, all these sexual offenses, because we have girls and boys that are developing so quickly, they're almost like little adults. So then you have these major messed up people who can't tell the difference between an adult and a child anymore, because there really isn't any difference anymore. Because we have been throwing so many pathogens at these kids that they're developing so quickly, you don't know anymore how old these people are. And these signals and the instincts are getting messed up. And we already have mutated people, mutated adults and mutated kids. It stands to reason why these crimes get committed. You got to understand, these people aren't monsters. Okay? These people are mutated. They're so mutated that they don't even know the difference between right and wrong because they're going by their biological instinct. And probably that's why you see in, these new laws from the Democrats, right? That are saying, oh, this is okay and that's okay and this is okay. And we're like, oh my God, what? And I'm not saying it's right, but you have to know where it comes from so that way we can stop it from going into a darker place. I mean, it's already pretty dark out there. You're seeing the headlines. Everything is really dark out there. This is the only light that's going to help your children and yourself not get caught up in those headlines. You know, the people out there, they're going to get caught up in the headlines. They're going to end up in a bad way. So that's why I'm just like, hey, you're an activist against this stuff. What are you doing to protect your own children from falling into that? What are you doing to protect yourself and your grandchildren and your nieces from falling into that stuff? I mean, if you're going to send your kid to public school, you're going to take part in the system. There's so many mutated people out there that have access to your children. Be very careful with giving your kid to the system, and then you're railing the system for them, vaccinating them without your permission, but yet you give them to the school system, and you're not even there. No different than when you leave your kid in a hospital with a nurse that you don't even know what they're going to do to your kid when you're sleeping. Anytime you enter into a system, whether it's a hospital, a school system, or any type of system, and you let go of your child, you have no say. You've let your child go into that system. You have no say because you just lost control. So be very careful and protect. And some of you, I know some of you it's too late because your kids now are adults and they've already been mutated from the system. And it's through no fault of your own. We didn't know this until now that we have some opportunity to reverse this situation that's going on. But it's going to take time. So that's why I have been deleting people left and right who are activists who say that they want to protect the kids, but they're not even doing the jilly juice themselves. So how are they going to help their boys who are probably going to trigger child support and CPS at a very quick age because they can't help their biological clock? When boys are getting circumcised and getting vaccinated and they're in public school, it's a tinderbox, and you will trigger CPS. You will trigger child support. You will trigger the system. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen. Unless that kid is like, completely exceptional and understands consequences. But not all kids have that kind of forethought. But there are some kids that they're like little adults, right? That they're so mature at a young age, and you're just like, what the hell? But that's also a mutation too. So people think, oh yeah, my child's a prodigy. Child could be mutated. What's the right time for a child to be a child? Well, let's look back, 100 years ago. But then, things were, go to some third world country where the Western world hasn't encroached upon them and tried to mess with them. We've lost sight of what humanity really should be doing because we are so mutated and so but we can still have advanced technology. We can still have advanced thought and still be able to grow and develop in the proper way. We don't necessarily have to throw away the baby with the bathwater because we're advanced. It means that we have now mutated people. No, we can still be an advanced society and have an amazing human population. But right now, it's definitely not happening, because of the fact that we keep compounding those mutations and we keep glorifying and celebrating the wrong people in our society. I mean, Hollywood and the entertainment industry, not everybody, because there's some of you that are trying to do better, right? That are in the entertainment industry. But most of Hollywood and in the entertainment industry, it's a bunch of mutated people. In the art world, a lot of mutated people. We're celebrating anxiety and angst and pain and all that stuff. So, so that's why I've been focusing lately and my own self as an example, because the reason why I could be this example is because I am no different than you. The only difference is that maybe you're male or maybe you're from a different race or whatever, but we all have 11 different systems. We all bleed the same. We all feel the same. We all have the same stimulus. We have same reaction. We just have different mutations. That's the only difference, is our mutations. But it comes from the same body. So imagine if you reverse all your mutations from the same body, we would all be on the equal level playing field. Right now, it's not happening. And so that's why you have, kids that are not doing very well in school and kids that are excelling. Not because, oh, that kid's smarter. No, that kid doesn't have as many mutations, or that kid has super genes because it was injected from the military experiments. And so they're able to focus, they're able to be that. Another kid who's developing and being a natural kid doesn't want to sit in class and be focused like this other kid. So, we've lost sight of what normal is because we're able to manipulate hormones. And that's messed up stuff. So anyways, there's my diatribe for the day. I'm just going to relish my feeling relatively normal today. And yeah. So, yeah, go get my book, you guys. Okay. There's only one book on the market. When I get my second book, which we just secured, that contract with the publishing house, then that book, Kevin and I that are writing, it's going to definitely support the other book. It'll definitely sell the other book. The other book is a primer. It is a Cliff Notes. It kind of gets to the root of the matter very quickly. The book that Kevin and I are writing together really is going to give you the nitty-gritty details. It's going to be like a Maggie May, because Maggie May, who, she was trying to give me some details that I wasn't looking for, but it's going to then give information that Maggie May is looking for, because that's her mentality, is to look really into the nitty-gritty details. And I'm trying to give you guys a bigger picture so that way you don't get lost in the details, because when you get lost in the details, you fail to see the bigger picture, and that's where things get cattywampus. Awesome, Cindy. Very good. So yeah, so we're going to have the best of both worlds for all of you different thinking people. Okay. Some of you get this already and you understand it, and so you're doing the protocol, bam. Others, you need a lot more hand holding, a lot more details, and I get it, and that's fine. And we'll have that for you too. Okay. So other than that, have a great day. Go to jillyjuice.com. Pain is healing. Just ride it out, deal with it, because there's going to be a better life on the other side once you get past that hump. All right. Bye.